Jeanne Romanovna had just parked her car near the supermarket when her expensive phone started ringing in her purse. Irritated, she thought it was a call from work and answered, but upon hearing her husband's voice, she immediately changed her tone. "Yes, Valerochka, I'll be home soon. I'll buy groceries for the weekend and come straight to you. Did you have dinner? No? You're waiting for me? How nice! I'll be there soon, don't miss me." Jeanne Romanovna was a businesswoman in her 40s, but she looked simply stunning. She devoted a lot of time to taking care of herself: beauty salons, massages, fitness centers, and expensive boutiques. With her slender and toned figure, she looked significantly younger than her age. Her husband's business, a shoe store, now relied solely on her. She couldn't let him down, so she worked day and night like a squirrel in a wheel. Purchasing, selecting, and monitoring staff, accounting, audits and reports, important negotiations, all of this fell on her fragile female shoulders. Her husband had been confined to a wheelchair for life due to an unfortunate accident 5 years ago. They started from scratch together, selling goods at the market, then opening their own shop, and then another, and the business took off. Since her husband, Valera, barely survived, Jeanne took on everything: the house, the business, the family life. Sometimes it was so difficult that she just wanted to cry from exhaustion, but she always pulled herself together. "Don't whine. Get up, wipe your tears, and get back in the game. If your hands and feet are in place, there's nothing to complain about. Valera is 100 times worse off, and he's still alive." The woman had a very stubborn character, and she was definitely not lacking in determination and perseverance. She loved her husband very much, and Jeanne and Valera, despite all the difficulties and hardships of life, managed to carry this bright feeling through their entire lives, not losing a gram of it. But they were unlucky with caretakers for her husband. Sometimes they would get irresponsible ones, sometimes rude ones, and one even started stealing jewelry and money from the dresser. Valera could do a lot of things himself by now, but he still needed outside help all day long. Every day, he needed massages and treatments. With these thoughts and worries, Jeanne got out of her car and went to the supermarket. Near the store, she suddenly noticed a very poorly dressed young woman. In such a freezing cold, she was wearing a thin, worn-out jacket, a scarf tied around her head instead of a hat, and autumn boots. She held a 5-year-old boy by the hand. The boy was dressed better, warmer. It was evident that the mother spared no expense for her child, but she clearly economized on herself. They were trudging around the store, the little boy clinging to his mother, and the woman had such sadness and hopelessness in her eyes. She looked around nervously, as if not understanding where to go. Jeanne had a keen eye and immediately saw that the woman was not a beggar or a thief, just lost and didn't know what to do. Jeanne suddenly felt unbearably sorry for this poor young mother, and she suddenly thought, what if I offer her a job as a caregiver? She definitely won't steal. Giving into her emotions, Jeanne approached the stranger and asked directly, "Hello. My name is Jeanne Romanovna. I see that you are upset or something has happened to you. I can offer you a job if you need one. Would you like to be a caregiver for my disabled husband? I guarantee decent pay. You are required to be honest and trustworthy." The previous caregiver became very cheeky and started stealing. It's hard to find qualified and honest staff these days. The young woman looked at her in shock and bewilderment. Agree, not everyday strangers on the street offer work to passers-by so easily, so she was clearly frightened. "My name is Marina. I really need a job right now. Are you sure you won't cheat me? After all, I'm not alone with my son." And it so happened that we have nowhere to live. Can I stay with you? Although I will probably refuse. It's scary. What if I end up in some kind of cult or den? And what about my son then? Jeanne smiled warmly and pulled out her business card. Here, look, my husband and I have our own shoe business. We have been living and working here for many years. Everyone knows us. I move in serious circles. So don't worry, this is not a scam or some kind of slavery. I really need a good caregiver who won't steal or be lazy. If you work conscientiously and try, I won't skimp on money. So, Marina, are you willing? You can live with us. We have a big mansion. We will allocate a separate room for you and your son. What's the boy's name? The young woman replied, his name is Sasha. But you don't even know me. Maybe I'm a thief too? Jeanne laughed. Believe me, I have been working with people for many years, and if anything, I know how to deal with people. You are definitely not a thief. Apparently you got into a difficult situation. I'm right? It's written in your eyes. You look scared and lost to death. Tears immediately welled up in Marina's eyes, and indeed, you guessed it, the situation couldn't be worse. My mother died, and my stepfather kicked us out with my son. Here, in this bag, are all our things. Thank you, I agree. I will take care of your husband conscientiously. You won't regret hiring me. Sasha is calm and not spoiled. There won't be any problems with him. Jeanne smiled. Well, that's good. Get in the car. It's warm there, and the baby is already freezing. And I'll quickly buy some groceries and we'll go. Agreed? I'll be quick, wait. When Marina went to the car with her son, Jeanne noticed that the boy was limping heavily on his right leg. In the supermarket, the businesswoman bought 4 huge bags of food. She didn't forget about the baby. She bought him some toys, coloring books, pencils, and sweets. He will need something to do. It's so sad for the boy. He's so little and already has a limp. On the way home, Jeanne couldn't resist and asked, Marina, I noticed that Sasha is limping heavily. What's wrong with him? I'm not asking out of idle curiosity. Maybe I can help him with something? Was he born like this? The young mother sighed and replied, No. Sasha was born healthy. A year ago, he climbed a tree in the garden and fell awkwardly, breaking his leg. They put a cast on it in the village, but it seems the doctor was inexperienced and the leg healed incorrectly. Now, an expensive operation is needed, but I don't have the money yet. I hope to earn enough soon so I can spend it all on my son. He's the most precious thing I have in life. Marina and Sasha timidly entered the huge country mansion. They had never seen such luxury before, especially the little one. Sasha clung to Marina and felt very shy in the unfamiliar surroundings. A pleasant elderly man in glasses and a neat beard came out to meet them in a stroller. When he saw Jeanne, he was thrilled and he and his wife hugged tenderly. Then he looked at Marina and Sasha and smiled warmly at them. Good evening. Do we have guests? What's the name of this charming boy? Let's get acquainted. I'm Valery Stepanovich Kuznetsov, the owner of this house. And he extended his hand to the boy in a manly way. The little one replied seriously, My name is Sasha. And my mom's name is Marina. We're the Simonovs. Jeanne explained the situation to her husband. Darling, I found you a babysitter. Marina really needs a place to live and work, and we need a babysitter. Right? You don't mind having kids in the house, do you? The man winked at the little one. I'm all for it. I won't be bored. Right, Shrek? Don't be shy. Let's go. I'll show you something interesting. I have a real frigate. You'll love it. I built it myself, for 3 whole months. All the details are just like the real thing. You can't even tell. They even move. Sasha immediately forgot his shyness and went with Valerie to his office with interest. Jeanne and Marina went to the kitchen to unpack the bags and prepare dinner. They worked together skillfully and chatted amiably. An hour later, they were all eating beef cutlets with potatoes and Greek salad. Marina began to live and work in the Kuznetsov's house. She was very comfortable and happy here. She and Valery Stepanovich immediately found a common language, and she performed all the duties of the babysitter conscientiously. If something was awkward or clumsy at first, he didn't scold her. He patiently explained how to do it correctly. Sasha also enjoyed it very much. Valery Stepanovich taught him how to play dominoes and checkers. They read together syllable by syllable, and made paper airplanes. In the presence of the child, the man even seemed to forget about his serious illness. He cheered up, and his days no longer dragged on like a dull gray mass, but flew by. Jeanne and Marina became very close. They often sat together late at night and chatted over a cup of coffee, just like women do. Jeanne told the young woman about her life. Don't think, Marina, that all this wealth just fell into our laps. My husband and I are both engineers. We studied in parallel streams at university. That's where we met. We studied together in the libraries, wrote all the notes and cheat sheets for exams. Valero was so funny, tall, skinny, awkward, and even had big ears. He would timidly flatter me and try to give compliments, but then he would say something stupid, and I would just laugh and not take him seriously. I always had plenty of suitors. But Valero was persistent, always following me. Wherever I went, he was there, never giving up. We started out as just friends. But one night, I was walking back to my dorm late after hanging out with a friend. It was already nighttime. And then 2 thugs attacked me. They tried to take my purse and grab my gold earrings. I screamed for help, but there was no one around. And then Valera appeared out of nowhere. He fought them off, but he was hurt too. They had to stitch up his eyebrow. But he saved my life, risking his own. And that's when I saw him in a different light. I knew I wouldn't lose him. We started dating. And I gradually fell in love with him, so deeply that I still do. We've been through so much together. We used to work at a research institute in the 90s, but it closed down. We turned to trading, and there was extortion, theft, and financial struggles. But we raised our son, Andre, who was a brilliant student and graduated high school with a gold medal. But then he didn't want to pursue a career in science and went into business after university. He moved out on his own. We bought him an apartment. But then the terrible accident happened. He and his father were driving back from a business meeting at a restaurant. Andre was being reckless, driving fast, and refused to call a taxi. He lost control of the car and crashed into a bridge pillar. Our son died on the spot, and my husband had to undergo 2 complex surgeries. They had to put him back together piece by piece, but he never fully recovered. It was a terrible time. I still haven't recovered, even after 5 years. I thought I would go insane with grief. The funeral of our only son, my husband's surgeries, and our business falling apart. I couldn't take it anymore. I took all of our son's photos and belongings to the attic. I couldn't bear to look at his portrait. Valera also fell into a deep depression. In one moment, he became a helpless invalid. We went through a long course of therapy with a psychotherapist. It was he who advised us to become a team again. I would take over my husband's business, and he would help me from home with all the business affairs. That's how we live now. But the business takes up almost all of my time. The house is always a mess, and my husband is alone. I'm so glad you and Sasha are here with us now. I see how Valera has come back to life in just 1 month. He's unrecognizable. He used to lie in bed with the curtains drawn for half a day and wouldn't even eat. It broke my heart to see him like that. But I can't do anything about it. If I stay home, we'll lose the business. And my husband wants to spend time with me too. And you, Marina, why are you on the street? And who is Sasha's father? Why isn't he here with you? Did you get divorced? You don't tell us anything about yourself. The young woman sighed and replied, "There's nothing to tell. I'm a country girl. My father left our family when I was a baby, so it was just my mom and me. It was hard. We had a big farm, and I helped her with everything. She worked from dawn to dusk in the garden and on the farm. But it's tough for a woman in the village. When I turned 13, she brought home a stepfather, this awful man named Semyon. Our family became a living hell. He helped a little at first, but then he started drinking more and more and became violent. I begged my mother to leave him, but she wouldn't. She was afraid of him. And she was worried about what people would say. In the village, many men drink, and it's not considered shameful. So I waited until I finished school, and then I left for the city. Anyway, just as long as it was far away from my unbearable stepfather. I felt sorry for my mom. She suffered with him, but what could I do? I rented a room in a dormitory and got a job as a waitress in a cafe. And then I fell in love. And the rest is all cliché. I got pregnant, had a fight with the guy. It's a very painful topic for me. Can I not talk about it? I might cry right now. I had to go back home to give birth. Of course, my mother forgave me, accepted me, and we sewed blankets and onesies together for my granddaughter, whom she simply adored and cherished. But my stepfather became even worse than before. He yelled that I was such a wayward degenerate who had gotten pregnant by some guy and brought him onto his neck. He didn't need a freeloader. And the villagers all talked behind my back, as they always do in a small town. Whenever I went out with my baby to the store, I would hear behind my back, "Look at her, her mother sent her to work, and she came back pregnant. Who's the father?" No one knows, she's such a promiscuous woman. While my mother was still alive, Sasha and I endured, although our nerves and strength were already at the limit. Sasha climbed a tree out of fear because the kind stepfather threatened to beat him with his belt. But then my mother died. Her heart couldn't take such abuse. A massive heart attack. After her funeral, my stepfather told me, "You're not welcome here with your spineless brat. Otherwise, I'll make your life a living hell. You won't know what hit you. I'm not old yet. Maybe I'll get married. And why are you here? Go live where you got pregnant with my son. Stop sitting on my neck." And what was left for me, it was his home. My mother foolishly sold it long ago, and he promised to put that money in the bank so that the interest would accumulate, but he drank it all away to the last penny. So we left, wherever our eyes took us. I had just gotten off the bus near the supermarket, standing there, almost crying. What to do? I have no idea. One suitcase of clothes for 2 people, that's my whole life. I have no money, nowhere to go. So you, Jeanne Romanovna, were sent to me by God himself. Thank you for taking us in, warming us up, and paying a good salary. If I'm doing something wrong, just tell me. I'll fix it right away. Jeanne's eyes welled up with tears from what she heard. She thought, oh my God. She's so young and has suffered so much. And there was no hope in her life. It's inconceivable. I need to help the boy. It's not right for him to live with a disability his whole life. And out loud, she said, it's okay, Marina, there will still be a celebration on our street. Don't be down. We started a tearful topic for the night. Let's have 5 drops of brandy. I'll call Valera now. And sleep. And tomorrow, I'll sign you and your son up with an orthopedist at a private clinic to see what's wrong with his leg. A couple of months passed. Jeanne was very satisfied with her caregiver. Now she could work calmly and knew that when she came home in the evening, she would find a delicious dinner, a clean house, and a satisfied husband. Marina cooked amazingly, regularly gave her husband massages, and he stopped complaining about the exhausting pains in his legs and stopped drinking painkillers by the handful. Therefore, Jeanne paid Marina a very decent salary and even gave her a bonus. The young woman was finally able to take care of herself and transformed and became more beautiful. She had a beautiful hairstyle, a delicate manicure, and bought some fashionable clothes. And of course, she persistently saved money for Sasha's operation, not forgetting to spoil him with toys and new clothes. The little one was also wonderful, calm, mature and thoughtful beyond his years. Soon, Jeanne and Valerie's wedding anniversary was approaching. They had lived together for 40 years. The jubilarians decided to celebrate this event in style at the most expensive restaurant in the city. After all, in recent years, Jeanne had forgotten what relaxation was. There was no respite, just endless work. She wanted to wave her hand for at least one evening and relax. Have a drink, eat delicious food, listen to good music, dance in the end and forget about all the problems. And Valerie hardly ever left the house, except to go to the hospital for checkups. It would also be useful for him to be in society. After all, disability is not the end of life, but he became a recluse. Marina was invited as the host's caregiver. It took 3 weeks to prepare for the celebration, and in the end everything was magnificent. Tables were overflowing with exquisite delicacies, pleasant music was playing, guests were socializing, eating, drinking expensive wines. Among the invited guests were both business partners and just friends and close people. Valery Stepanovich was present in person and, despite being in a wheelchair, he still looked very dignified. The guests congratulated the couple and gave expensive gifts. But somewhere in the middle of the celebration, a famous pop singer was supposed to arrive to perform. Jeanne specifically hired her to intrigue and surprise the guests. And then everyone was waiting for the show, and it turned out that the star had fallen ill and could not come. Her art director called and canceled the performance. What a force majeure! The guests asked for songs, and Jeanne was in a panic and didn't know how to tell them that the singer wouldn't come. And then Marina whispered to her, "If you want, I can sing. I'm not a singer or a superstar, but I used to be good at it." Jeanne was very surprised and even more upset, thinking how it could ruin the impression of the formal evening. What could an ordinary village woman sing? Folk songs. They'll laugh. But Valery unexpectedly supported the proposal, nodded his head, and said into the microphone, "Dear guests, we have a small force majeure. The artist fell ill and will not come. What can you do? Anything can happen in life. But don't worry, we won't be without songs and entertainment. Marina Simonova, my caregiver and a very good person, decided to surprise us and sing a song as a gift for our anniversary. Well, let's support her with applause. The tipsy guests clapped in unison and waited in surprise for what would happen next. They had never seen businessmen of this level allowing some caregiver to go on stage. It was even interesting. What would happen now? Marina walked onto the stage on unsteady legs. She looked around and became even more scared. A large number of very important people were looking at her. She didn't want to embarrass herself. She greeted the guests and quietly said, "Today is a great celebration. The anniversary of wonderful people who helped me a lot in life and supported me in a difficult moment. I want to sing a song about love for you. It is very dear to me because it is a memory of my beloved person. He loved her very much and often sang to me. Please don't judge too harshly. I am not a singer and far from the world of show business. Just from the heart and pure soul." Marina took the microphone in her hands and sang, "The day silently changes to night outside your window, my beloved. The rain sows coolness with wet silver. With the arrival of September, the golden fall covers the whole country. The autumn garden dozes as if waiting for spring." It was so beautiful and wonderful, so sincere and emotional, that people started singing along and clapping, and Jeanne sat and cried. Tears streamed from her eyes nonstop, and her mind was in turmoil. The thing is, this was her late son Andre's favorite song. He often performed it and always listened to it everywhere, at home, in the car, and sang it in the shower. The young woman looked so organic and wonderful on stage, long curly brown hair, minimal makeup, and a simple but very elegant dress, belted with a thin belt. She had such natural charm and charisma, which is rare to find nowadays. The guests stopped drinking and eating and were charmed by her. When Marina finished singing, they applauded her for a long time and asked her to continue the concert. And she sang more and more, for a whole hour. Her vocal cords were already noticeably sore from lack of use, but Marina was happy. Because becoming a singer was her childhood dream. She performed everywhere, starting from kindergarten, and teachers told her she had talent. But who needed that talent in the village? Get up early and work harder. And now it seemed to her that her dream was coming true right here and now. Many people filmed her performance on their phones and sincerely applauded. When the guests finally released the caregiver from the stage, she bowed to the audience, sat down at the table, and greedily drank water glass after glass, trying to catch her breath and recover from the excitement. She was hot, dizzy, and her face flushed with blood from the excitement she experienced, as she had never performed in public before, and she decided to go outside for some fresh air. Jeanne, noticing that Marina was leaving, took her purse and followed her. She desperately needed to ask her one question, without delay, right here and now. Everything depended on it. The woman was shaking all over. She couldn't believe what she had heard. Was it just a coincidence? Jeanne started right away, without preamble. "Marina, you said on stage that the song My Beloved is a memory of your loved one. Is that true? What was his name?" Surprised Marina nodded. "Yes, it's true. His name was Andre. He was my first and only love of my life. But it's hard for me to talk about it, sorry. Can we not talk about it now? I'm already too nervous. I won't be able to calm down. I didn't even think it would be so scary to sing in public." Jeanne didn't give up. She couldn't later. Everything had to be clarified now, immediately. She pulled out a photo of her son from her wallet and handed it to Marina. Do you know this person? Be honest. I need to know the truth. It's very important to me. Marina looked at the photo, screamed, and collapsed like a felled tree right on the restaurant steps, unconscious. Panic and commotion ensued. They called an ambulance, and while it was on its way, they tried to bring the woman to her senses on their own, splashing cold water on her and slapping her cheeks. Finally, little by little, Marina came to her senses. Jeanne breathed a sigh of relief and started crying. Marina, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling sick? Did you get too nervous when you sang? You scared us all. The young woman suddenly burst into tears and quietly said, that guy in the photo, he's my first love and Sasha's father. I never expected to see him again. So many years have passed, but I can't forget him. Who is he to you? How did you get his photo? Jeanne was already crying, and Valerie was in shock. He is our son, Andre, who died in an accident 5 years ago. So, Sasha is our grandson? Oh my God, what happiness! We thought we were alone in this world. Our own little person. It's just unbelievable. The guests, upon hearing this stunning news, were almost falling off their chairs. Who would have thought that the son of a caregiver would turn out to be the grandson of businessmen? You don't always see that even in TV series. That's what a jubilee is. It was worth attending. Back home, sitting late at night in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, Jeanne asked, Marisha, tell me, how did you meet Andriusha and why didn't we know about it? What caused the breakup? You know, as a mother, I want to know everything that happened to my son. It's important to me. I'm not going to judge or accuse you of anything. I just want to know more about my son's life. Marina sighed heavily and began to tell her story. When I worked as a waitress, Andre often came to our cafe to have coffee and a snack. That's how we met. I liked him immediately. He was such a cheerful and pleasant guy. He complimented me. Then one day he gave me a bouquet of flowers and invited me on a date. I was so nervous. I thought I would die. Our love was mutual, I'm sure of it. I felt with every cell in my body that he loved me. We started dating. He was my first and only man. Everything was so wonderful. He read me poems, composed them himself, and sang this song in my ear. It was so pleasant for me. No one has ever courted me like that. It's still here, in my soul. I thought we would get married. I sincerely believed we would be together for the rest of our lives. Andriusha introduced me to his friends. We went on a few trips together. And then I started feeling nauseous and sleepy all the time. I was stupid. I didn't understand what was going on. I thought I had been poisoned or had some illness. But when I bought a pregnancy test, I was shocked. Pregnancy! I immediately called Andre. I was flying on wings. I imagined how happy he would be, because it was his child. I already saw myself meeting his parents, wearing a wedding dress. It's so important for every girl. But when my beloved heard this amazing news, he immediately became sad and started persuading me to have an abortion. Marisha, how can this be? I thought you were using protection. What kind of children can we have at our age? I want to live for myself a little longer. I haven't told my parents anything about you yet, and now you're pregnant. Maybe we shouldn't rush things? We have our whole lives ahead of us. I love you so much, but pregnancy wasn't part of my plans, to be honest. Which one of us is a parent? I got so angry then. I was terribly hurt. I slapped him and ran away in tears. Inside me, everything was boiling. How can this be? So sleeping with me was part of his plans, but the pregnancy that happened because of it wasn't? He called me several times, but I didn't pick up the phone. I couldn't forgive him for those words. Much later, I hated myself for it. I'm sure Andriusha wanted to ask for forgiveness and make up. He was a very good guy, just lost his way. And then he disappeared, completely. I suffered so much, I thought he had left me. Only through acquaintances did I learn that he tragically died. It was a catastrophe. I didn't even know who his parents were. So I had to quit my job and go home, to the village, to my mother, to give birth. That's the whole story. But Andre is still here, in my heart. I can't forget him, that's all. I loved him very much. And he loved me too, I know for sure. Jeanne was shocked, her head was spinning. Poor girl. I can imagine what you went through. How you suffered. But admit it, it's just an incredible coincidence that I met you exactly that day near the supermarket. You won't believe it, I looked at you and something turned over in my soul. Maybe fate brought us together. No other way. You are now the dearest to us, and Sachenka too. Thank you, dear, for not having an abortion and preserving the pregnancy, giving us a grandson. And don't hold a grudge against Andriusha. He's not a scoundrel, I'm sure. He was just very young and inexperienced then, didn't know what to say, how to confess to us. Do you want to go to his grave tomorrow? Visit him? You've probably never been there before, right? Marina nodded quietly. I want to. Talk to him, ask for forgiveness too. We were both good. He said something stupid, I got offended, pride flared up. We had a foolish argument and parted ways. But it could have been completely different. The next day, as agreed, the women went to the cemetery to see Andre. Marina froze, staring for a long time at the brown beloved eyes with a squint in the portrait and the dimple on the chin that was so familiar to her. And then suddenly she fell right on his grave and burst into tears, moaning, stroking his portrait and whispering something to him for a long time. Jeanne sat quietly on a bench and understood that it was necessary. Let her cry. These are tears of purification. With each shed tear, it will become easier for her. All the resentment and anger that had accumulated over the years will go away, and her soul will finally be at peace. Sachenka had a complex operation, then there was a long rehabilitation. Marina sat with him constantly, and Jeanne visited her in the hospital. She and her husband paid for everything. They didn't mind spending any money on their grandson. When the boy was discharged, they decided, after consulting, that it was time to tell him the whole truth about his father and grandparents. Valery Stepanovich took on this difficult conversation. He got along great with the boy and was confident that he could find the right words and explain everything to him. In the evening, he came to Sasha's room on a stroller. The boy was drawing something, concentrating. The man looked at the drawing. There were a man, a woman, and a child depicted, as well as the sun, the sky, and the sea. Valery Stepanovich praised the boy. Great drawing. Let me guess who's here. This is probably you. And this is your mother, but who is this? I don't understand. The boy said seriously, you guessed correctly. And this is my dad. I wish he was with us too. When I asked my mom about my dad, she immediately becomes sad, kisses me, and stays silent. Do you know why? In the man's soul, everything stirred and turned over. And he asked, would you like to have grandparents too? Tell me? Sasha smiled. Of course, I would. Only my grandma died, and there's no one else. It's just me and my mom. Valery Stepanovich cautiously began to approach the main topic. No, Sasha, you're wrong. You have grandparents. Do you want me to tell you a story? The boy nodded with interest, and the man began to tell. Your mother and father loved each other very much. Like a prince and a princess from a fairy tale. But then it happened that they quarreled. Adults sometimes make such irreparable mistakes. You'll understand when you grow up. And then your mom gave birth to you, such a wonderful boy, and Dad, it so happened. He's not with us now, he's up there, in heaven. That's why your mom is so sad when you ask where Dad is, do you understand? But you have grandparents. They just didn't know that they had such a wonderful grandson. Can you imagine? And now they know. Your grandpa is me, Sasha. And your grandma is Jeanne. That's the story. Are you happy about it? We will never be apart now. We will live together. If you want, we can all go to the sea together in the summer. Have you never been there before? Sasha jumped up as if scalded and deftly climbed onto Valery Stepanovich's arms. He hugged him with his little hands and cuddled up trustingly. Grandpa! It's so cool that you found us. I knew right away that I liked you. I knew you were good. A wave of tenderness and love for his grandson stirred in the man, and tears came to his eyes. He also hugged the little one in response. Sashka! Grandson! I'm also very happy that we found you. Well, let's go introduce ourselves to the grannies again, shall we? Sasha nodded happily. And they left the room. Marina and Jeanne were on pins and needles, waiting to see how it would all end. The women were worried if the little one would understand everything. But when the happy Sasha ran up to Jeanne and hugged her first, saying, Grandma! I'm glad you found me. You're the best. You saved us with Mom. Jeanne burst into tears of tenderness and also hugged her grandson. And Marina, following suit, burst into tears too. It was so touching. She couldn't believe she was a grandmother. And for 5 whole years. She wanted to sing, dance and shout about it to the whole world. Grandpa gave his grandson the coolest phone, and the happy boy ran off to play with it in the room, but it wasn't even half an hour before he shot out like a bullet again and announced to everyone, Mom! You're an internet star. Your songs have thousands of views. You have lots of likes and comments. Everyone likes how you sing. Wow, my mom's a star. I'll tell everyone about it. Astonished Marina couldn't understand anything. After all, she wasn't even thinking about the internet. But when she went on YouTube, she was amazed. It turned out that one of the guests had posted her performance at the anniversary online just for fun, and it instantly blew up the internet. She gained fans and even a fan club. This woman had never dared to dream of such wild popularity. She wasn't a singer and had never learned how to sing. How was this even possible? And just a few days later, representatives of the press and media companies came to the Kuznetsovs' house. And they offered to record a new song in a professional studio and sign a collaboration agreement with them. The shocked woman was in complete shock and didn't even know what to say. She started to refuse out of fear. Come on, what are you talking about? I'm not a singer. What if it doesn't work out? I'll just embarrass myself. Then, at the anniversary, it was from the heart. I really wanted to sing that song. And I've never even been to a studio before. I don't know what I need to do there. I won't be able to do it. But the producer reassured her, don't be afraid. I've been working for many years, and I've brought many stars of the stage to light. So here's what I'll tell you, my little dove. More than half of them can't even sing. Yes, yes. They're just children of some insanely wealthy oligarchs. And you're a natural talent, believe me, there aren't many like you. So everything will work out for you, I'm sure. God doesn't burn pots. Jeanne supported Marina. Well, at least try it. You're not losing anything, are you? Really, I feel like I'll have to look for a caregiver again. Since the daughter-in-law turned out to be a singer, what do you think? And don't worry about Sasha, we'll keep an eye on him and find a nanny. Isn't that what you dreamed of? You've always wanted to be a singer since childhood. Well, here's your moment of stardom. Take it. There won't be a second one. Fate doesn't give out such gifts every day, believe me. Don't hide your head in the sand like an ostrich. Go boldly towards your dream and believe that it will come true and everything will work out for you. My husband and I believed in ourselves once, and we didn't fail, we achieved everything we wanted. And you can do it too. Marina got emotional. Thank you for your warm words and support, maybe you're right. I'll try it. Here goes nothing. And Marina agreed to the tempting offer. It turned out that recording songs in the studio was a very difficult job. She had to rewrite the lyrics 100 times, and her voice would break at the most inappropriate moment. She didn't get everything right away. But in the end, after titanic efforts from both sides, everything worked out. They came up with a beautiful pseudonym for her, Mia, and completely changed her appearance. They convinced her to become a platinum blonde. Marina was hesitant to cut her naturally thick, blonde locks, but eventually agreed, deciding that she needed to experiment at least once in her life. After all, the professionals know best. Her eyes were blue, her figure was simply stunning, and her childbirth had not ruined her appearance. On the contrary, it had made her softer and less angular. When Valerie Stepanovich and Jeanne Romanovna finally saw Marina's performance, they were amazed. The host of the music channel announced, and now, the premiere of a new song and a new rising star, Mia. An incredible beauty appeared on the screen, with nothing in common with the Marina they knew. The blonde with the asymmetrical haircut and a tight mid-colored dress looked simply stunning. They gave her a very interesting, space-themed makeup, and she even resembled an alien. And when she sang, it was simply delightful. Her voice was really melodic and had such diverse and unusual nuances. Fame and popularity literally overwhelmed Marina, and she woke up famous the next day. Journalists and persistent fans besieged the Kuznetsov house, and there seemed to be no escape from them. Of course, at first, it made Marina dizzy. She could never have dreamed of such a fairy tale. The simple village girl could never have imagined that she would be shown on television and sing for the whole country. She began to record songs and perform solo concerts, and everything spun so quickly and rapidly that the young woman's head was completely blown away. A sea of flowers, popularity, her songs sounded from every window, and she became recognizable everywhere. But soon she felt the other side of fame in full force. She hardly saw her son anymore, he was always with his grandparents. The little boy was deeply upset and hurt when she couldn't spend time with him for a few hours before leaving again. Sasha cried and asked, "Don't you love me anymore? Why are you leaving again? You just got back. I miss you. Don't leave me." Marina stroked her son's head and tried to explain everything to him. "I'll be back soon." Aren't you happy with your grandparents? Do you want me to bring you the coolest robot ever? Just say the word. The little boy shook his head sadly. Why do I need a robot if you're never home? It tore the woman's heart to pieces. She realized that she was becoming more and more distant from her son. The little boy became closed off and sad again. They used to be one whole. Simply going out became almost impossible. She had to smile, keep a straight face, and only say what the producers told her to say. After performances, there were receptions with champagne and a severe headache in the morning. Men looked at her suggestively, and some made unmistakable hints at intimacy. They said that it was normal in the show business industry. All of this was more exhausting than any garden in the village, and Marina became terribly tired of it. She increasingly wanted to cry, lock herself up and run away from everyone, and just be alone for a while. Once, at one of her solo performances, a very pleasant young man gave her flowers. He said modestly, "Marina, you sing so beautifully. I didn't know that Andrei's bride had such talent." Marina almost screamed, "You knew Andrei? I don't remember you. Are we even acquainted?" The guy smiled. "We crossed paths a few times in a group. Remember when you and Andrei came to our country house? We played love songs on the guitar until night. I really liked you then. But you didn't even look at me. Unfortunately, you were completely absorbed by my friend. So, I didn't want to interfere. But now, can I get to know you better? Or is a star like me and not interested in ordinary guys anymore? My name is Jeanne. Maybe we can have coffee? Or do you want me to take you on my bike around the city at night? Any whim, just say it." Marina suddenly looked at him intently and said quietly, "I want to. Take me away from everyone. I just want to sit in silence and be quiet. Can you make that happen, Jeanne? With silence and no one around. If you knew how tired I am of all this noise." He didn't say anything, silently took her hand and, in his concert suit, led her out through a secret passage. They climbed up the exterior stairs like thieves. Then he sat her on his huge black motorcycle, put a helmet on her, said hold on tight, and they sped off. Marina had never experienced such drive and excitement before. The night, the blinding headlights of cars, the speed and refreshing summer wind. They rode for quite a while, and when the companion turned into the forest, Marina tensed up. Who knows what this crazy guy had in mind? But when they arrived at a beautiful meadow near the lake outside the city, she was thrilled. They hardly spoke, sitting with their arms around each other on the edge of the shore, splashing their feet in the cool water, and thinking about their own things. Jeanne threw his warm biker leather jacket over her shoulders so she wouldn't get cold. And they both felt so good together, so calm, and didn't need anyone else around. Marina suddenly said, "You know, I just realized right now that I don't want popularity or concerts, but to just sit with my family and son, and no one else. Do you understand? All this is just a mess. I'm so tired, I don't even see Sasha anymore, and he gets upset, misses me. We never used to be apart for long." Jeanne suddenly turned her sharply towards him and passionately kissed her on the lips, without asking for permission. At first, she tried to break free, but passion overwhelmed her, and she responded to the kiss. Millions of electric charges pierced her body. Her whole being trembled and asked for more. After catching their breath, the man said quietly, "Marinka, marry me. I will love your son, for sure, he's not a stranger to me, he's part of you and my best friend. I promise you won't regret your decision. but I'm not ready to share you with millions of fans. I want a real strong family. I don't need anyone else but you, do you understand? I fell in love with you back then and still couldn't forget you. Even though you didn't even suspect it. Bring back your gorgeous blonde hair, be yourself. Marina was stunned by such an unexpected proposal on their first evening together, but then remembered Jeanne's story and replied, maybe everything that's happening now is complete madness on my part and I'm a fool, but I agree. I hope I never regret it. I want to believe you, Jeanne. I'm so tired of being alone. I just want to be a weak woman. And they merged again in a passionate kiss. And didn't let go of each other until dawn. Marina hadn't felt so good and calm in a long time. She felt like they had known each other for 1,000 years, as they could feel each other even without words. And in the morning, returning to the city, Marina once again drastically changed her life. She completely disappeared from the limelight, made a deal with the producer that there would be no public performances, only occasional song recordings for the soul. Yes, it was a breach of contract and she was expected to pay a penalty, but so be it. Marina took Sasha from her grandparents and moved into Jeanne's 2-room apartment in the center of town. She was of course insanely scared, because she didn't really know what kind of person Jeanne was, whether he would love Sasha, whether they would get along. She herself didn't know why she had blindly trusted a complete stranger. She just felt inside that he wouldn't let her down, and that was it. She disappeared from the stage and screens just as unexpectedly as she appeared, and only occasionally new hits with her voice appeared on the radio. Fans continued to storm the Kuznetsov's house, hoping to catch Mia there, but all in vain. They wondered how and why the rising star left the stage at the peak of her popularity. Isn't that stupid? She could have made a fortune. Become famous. To be famous throughout the country. They didn't know that Marina had simply chosen female happiness, and it was much more important than any show or concert, and you couldn't buy it for any amount of money in the world. Marina quietly married Jeanne and became a normal family. The man immediately found a common language with Sasha and got along well, because the boy was very good-natured and open. The baby sincerely rejoiced that his mother was now with him again, that his father had appeared, that they were walking together, watching movies and riding bikes in the park. Marina grew her beautiful long blonde hair again, put on her favorite jeans, erased tons of makeup, and became herself. She didn't have to smile sickly sweetly, answer tricky and uncomfortable questions, and stay at these receptions, where almost every other man wants to peek under her skirt and flirt. She was so good and comfortable in her little world, with the three of them, that she didn't need anything else. They didn't forget about their grandparents, regularly visited them with Sasha. Businessmen understood her desire to fade into the background, especially Valery Stepanovich. You did everything right, girl. How many of them, starlets, who left at sunset as quickly as they shone, and live alone, at the bottom, no one needs. Fame, alas, is fleeting, and family is forever. If you feel with your heart that you love, then you need to choose a family. Sasha was so worried when you were always recording. He no longer needed toys, entertainment, or a phone. He was ready to give all this up just to have his mother nearby. And childhood is also once, and you can't get back the missed time. So you're smart to have understood all this. We're proud of you. I think Jeanne is a good man, he won't hurt you. Marina warmly hugged Valery Stepanovich. Thank you for your support. I just, apparently, am not a very public person. I don't like interference in my personal life, and all this is not for me. I like watching movies at home with my family much more than answering journalists' questions. I'm recording a few songs a month now, And that's it. It brings tangible income and pleasure to me, because I like to sing, no matter what. And I don't need more. Genya is great. He works as a foreman in a construction company, so he provides us well. How's the caregiver? Coping with the duties? Valery Stepanovich laughed. Well, more or less. But I can't find such a soulful caregiver as you. But you have become the closest and dearest to us, and Sasha too, and I'm very happy about that. Jeanne and I no longer feel like lonely, unwanted old people. I've already transferred all the business to Sasha. When we're gone, it will all be his by right. When he grows up a little, I'll teach him everything and prepare him for it. Raise, so to speak, a worthy successor. Marina became emotional. Thank you and Jeanne Romanovna for everything. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't even know how my fate would have turned out. You helped me stand on my own 2 feet at the hardest moment of my life. Even without knowing that Sasha was your grandson. Just like that, as humans. And that's priceless. Genya turned out to be a wonderful husband and father, and Marina didn't regret just going with him then. Blindly trusting him. He was nothing like Andrei, a joker and chatterbox. Genya was reserved, sometimes even silent, but he proved his love every day, with actions. For Marina, the simple things were much more valuable. Did you dress warmly? Or Sasha, eat your soup? You'll ruin your stomach from childhood. I'm worried. Or did you sleep badly today? Did you get sick by accident? Nothing's wrong? He could, without asking, just give Marina these gold earrings, or take everyone to the skating rink. He taught Sasha the right and necessary things, that he needed to respect his mother, love her, be a man, not let her cry and carry burdens, and always protect her. And this quiet family happiness was much more important to Marina than popularity and public appearances. A year passed. Marina had long since settled into the role of a wife, always waiting for Genya to come home, trying to cook something delicious. The whole family, including Valery Stepanovich, returned from a wonderful trip to the sea just a week ago. The man resisted until the last minute and didn't want to go. Like, what's the point for me, a wheelchair user? But Marina and Jeanne were unyielding. They really wanted Valery to sit by the sea again, bask in the sun, and experience the joys of rest. Genya also supported this idea. The men had been friends for a long time, even when Andrei was alive. And they were close people. The journey was certainly difficult for Valery Stepanovich. He was very tired, exhausted, but when they brought him to the coast, and he breathed in the spicy sea breeze for the first time in many years, heard the sound of the surf, and saw the beautiful waves rolling onto the shore, he realized that these sacrifices were nothing compared to the indescribable beauty. Every day the man enjoyed his vacation to the fullest. With the help of special inflatable sleeves and a mattress, he held up well in the water, swam, and enjoyed these indescribable sensations. And there's nothing to say about little Sasha. He was practically impossible to pull out of the sea. Genya gave him a mask and fins, and now the young diver hunted for crabs and shells underwater. The boy was thrilled with the sea. He dreamed about it, drew everything on pictures. And Jeanne finally let go of everything and completely relaxed. It was vital for her. When the whole family scattered to their houses late in the evening after dinner, and Sasha slept soundly with his grandfather and grandmother, it was time for the young people. Marina and Genya walked along the embankment until dawn. listened to live music, drank sweet Crimean wine, and couldn't let go of each other. And then they went to the sea and swam. It was so amazing to swim at night, when there was no one around. And then love each other so passionately and fiercely, like on the first night of their acquaintance. In general, everyone rested well and experienced the best emotions. Upon their return, normal weekdays began, everything went as usual. And Marina already felt the familiar symptoms after a month: nausea, nervousness, and heaviness in the lower abdomen. She already knew the answer without any doctors or tests. She was pregnant. She and Jeanne never touched on this topic. The man didn't pressure her, didn't ask her to have a child for him. He raised Sasha and seemed satisfied with everything. The woman started to panic a little. How will he react to this news? Is he ready to be a father? Will he still love Sasha as much as he does now? Marina decided to consult with Jeanne, as she was the closest person she had, and rushed straight to her office. Jeanne was, of course, happy to see Marina, but was surprised that she had come to work. Something very important must have happened. The women sat in the office, the secretary brought them coffee, and Jeanne asked bluntly, "What happened? You look worried. Don't hesitate, tell me what's going on. We'll figure something out together." Marina swallowed nervously and blurted out, "Jeanne, I'm pregnant. What should I do? I'm so scared. What if Jeanne loves Sasha less later? And how do I even tell him?" The woman leaned back in her chair, took off her glasses and laughed heartily. "You're something else. I thought something had happened. Congratulations. It's wonderful. Every man wants a child from his wife. Why are you getting yourself worked up? Where did you come up with these horror stories?" Marina stammered, but he never even talked about it, never mentioned children. What if he doesn't want it? I'm so afraid of losing my beloved person again, like with Andre, you know? Jeanne just waved her hand. You were both young and foolish then. It's all different now. Jeanne is just different. He keeps all his emotions inside. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want children. He just shows patience and tact, doesn't push you, and waits for it to happen naturally. And he won't stop loving Sasha. Don't worry for no reason. Call him now and tell him. I'm waiting. Otherwise, I know you'll torture yourself for another couple of months, and me too. Marina took out her phone and dialed Jeanne's number. He answered anxiously, "Hi. Did something happen? You've never called me at work before? Is everything okay with Sasha? Or are you sick?" Marina was completely embarrassed, but Jeanne showed her a fist, and she dared, "Jeanne, I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Are you happy?" There was silence on the other end of the line, and then he answered calmly, "Wonderful. So, on Tuesday, I'll make an appointment for you with a good doctor. You'll be on the register. No worries or anxieties. And don't even think about going to the gym or sticking to your crazy diets. Eat what you want. We'll discuss everything in the evening. Bye!" Marina breathed a sigh of relief and almost cried. Jeanne! Why is he like that? He didn't say he's happy. That he's glad. Andre was completely different. Jeanne replied, frowning, "Appreciate that, silly. Yes, he's not jumping for joy, but he's already thinking ahead, how to take care of you. He's a real man and the head of the family. You won't find many like him these days. And you're getting worked up for no reason. I think Sasha will be happy too that he'll have a little brother or sister." Valera and I will also be taking care of another grandchild, just so you know. Well, that's it, silly. Go home, prepare a festive dinner. Make the family happy. Such an event. I'll also tell Valera tonight. Is that okay? Marina picked up Sasha from kindergarten, and they baked a cake together for Dad. Genya was a terrible sweet tooth. Finally, the front door opened, and her beloved entered the apartment. He held a huge bouquet of flowers in his hands. He gave them to Marina with the words, "Today is the best day of my life." "Thank you, my dear. Now our family will be even bigger and stronger." Then, as usual, he lifted the happy Sasha up and told him, "You know, soon you'll have a little brother or sister. You're very lucky. You'll be the oldest, which means you'll be the boss. Isn't that great?" Sasha thought, as always, seriously, and then replied, "Just make sure he listens to me and doesn't break my toys. All right?" Everyone laughed and kissed the little one, and Genya replied just as seriously, "Agreed. So, let's go eat. Who's washing their hands first?" And they, like little children, raced to the bathroom. And Marina watched them with affection and was the happiest wife and mother in that moment.